Hello, and welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is my first time playing the flight simulator, and I have decided to travel from Tanjore to Trichy, or as it's written here, VOTR Tiruchirappalli to VOTJ Tanjore. That's my puppy. She wants me to play with her right now. She doesn't understand that I am recording. Right, so before we start this video, let me preface it with what I always tell you. Please like and subscribe if you like the content that I'm putting outside. If there's anything which you would like me to change about what I'm doing or make things much better, please do tell me in the comments below. Right, so now we are diving into the southern part of India. Excuse me for a second. Yeah, I just put her down. So we are going into the southern part of India, and Tanjore and Trichy are very close to my heart because my father hails from Tanjore and my mother from Trichy. So we will depart from Trichy and we will be arriving at Tanjore. And I did my college in Tanjore. Now, I did do this flight once before, and I promptly crashed on landing. Since then, I feel like I have become considerably better at landing. Nonetheless, this is a very short journey. 23 nautical miles is not much, and for a initial video I think this should be fine. We will be flying the Icon A5. We can choose a lot of other flights, but other aircraft, but right now actually the Diamond DA62 is an awesome aircraft. That was my favorite until I tried the Icon A5. This is a microlight, goes considerably slower, so we can have a look at things which are happening as we fly, which is the point of this. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the game. I don't know if this would get recorded, so if it doesn't, I'll probably just cut it off. Right, so here we are at Tanjore Airport. Tanjore Airport is a very tiny airport. I don't even know if commercial airliners fly here. They most probably do. I am running this at high graphics. There we are. That's us. Hello. So our tail number is Kel1 Romeo. Of course, when you read it from here, you could say it's Kelair, but hey, one could only guess. I am running this at 45 FPS. I find that no matter how much I reduce the graphics, it's pretty much the same frame rate that I get. Very marginal increases, so it doesn't actually matter. And I think right now would be where the frame rates drop the most. We are taking off at 6:08 a.m., which is early morning, should be fine. And let's get ready to fly. So this is inside the cockpit view, so we'll just have a very quick view of the cockpit. As you can see, it's all glass all around here, so if we were to actually sit in one of these planes, this would just be fantastic. We have slick seats. They look better than my gaming chair over here. We have a Tesla-ish looking dash with some space age looking, is that a USB port on my joystick over there? I don't know. Right, we have a touchscreen display which we can obviously control, and we've got pretty much all the bells and whistles which are there in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It says my connection is lost because my Wi-Fi is a little bit sketchy, but that should not actually matter a lot for us. Right, it's giving us a couple of prompts, but let's quickly jump to the external view, which I find to be the most beautiful. Right, so we are at the starting of the runway. This is Trichy Airport, and this is where we need to get to, 23 nautical miles away from us. The 0.53 nautical miles is to the center of the runway, which is where it marks the airport. Let's throttle up as I talk about some of the other things which are there on the screen. You see my plane's now moving forward because I haven't released or disengaged the parking brake, which I have done now. Now on the left corner over here, you can see my airspeed indicator, and that has a lot of marking. So basically, as I understand it, once I reach this point, I can V1 and rotate, which is what I am doing right now. Working off of my joystick, I am rotating. Once we are, so I will quickly do my flaps, which you can see as the first indicator on my left. I am reducing my flaps. Flaps increase your drag, so reducing the flaps makes it easier for you to basically run. And then I am bringing up my landing gear. That's good. So now we are elevated, and that elevation is shown by the AOA indicator right next to the fuel. AOA is angle of attack. So the blue marking says it's pretty high. As I come down, it'll tell me that it's low. That's the ATC trying to contact me, which shouldn't matter for us because I have my co-pilot, who is non-existent, talking to the ATC. I think this is actually a good, like a good concept, because I have a lot of imaginary friends, and in this case I can share my friend with the ATC. Right, so we can see our engine RPMs. This is not cruising RPM or cruising speed or anything like that. We're taking a tiny little left turn because I want to show you guys the beauty of my motherland. So I'm throttling back a little bit to, let's say, 4000 RPM as we do a slow flyby of Trichy. Now you can see below that there's a lot of farmlands. There are a lot of farms in and around Trichy because historically Trichy's been part of the rice basin or rice belt of India, and all of that is due to the voluminous river which you can see up ahead. This is the mighty river Kaveri. It's unfortunate that right now it's nothing but a bed of sand. There is hardly a trickle that runs through the river due to a lot of geopolitical and economic activities going on in this basin, but that is essentially the cornerstone of my entire culture, this river. That's kind of like being very reductive, because there's a lot of Tamil culture which doesn't have to do anything with this river, but this river generally does contribute a lot to it. So the sun's rising. As you can see, the sea is the coast is towards the east, which is where the sun is rising, and you have this beautiful orange hue. It's just amazing. This game is just beautiful when it comes to how pretty it gets. They're talking about frequency changes, and we have a little bit of time for me to explain to you everything that's going on here. So if you can see on the top left corner, you've got my heading indicator. So my heading right now is 067 degrees. It's basically a compass. Below that you have the airspeed indicator, which shows you my airspeed in knots. This is the airspeed. This is not the speed with respect to the ground. This is how fast I am actually going. This is very important for us to, there she goes with the squeaky toy. This is very important for us because it helps you understand how much of stress there is on the body of the plane. And then you have the engine, which shows you the RPMs which is there. Then you have a fuel indicator, which shows you that my fuel is at 48%, the angle of attack indicator. And then if we jump to the right, we've got the flaps. Now the flaps are extensions which basically increase drag on your wings, as I understand it. Now, excuse me if one of the 15 of you that are watching this video are experts in aeronautical engineering. You are most welcome to correct me if I'm wrong. My dog's playing now. She gets super excited at night. Let's quickly, there's a lot of cloud cover here, so let me show you one cool feature in this game, which is live weather. So I can basically push the clouds away so that we get a clearer view. I can also change the time of day, so let's change it to some time which is a little bit better. And yeah, this should do us good. This is fine. Right, so it's prompting us saying I can click on the joystick to maybe see something of interest, but what is of interest to me is our little river Kaveri. So although it is a little drier for the average person who's traveling through this part of the country, there are a lot of farms. Farming is a very, very integral part of this part of India. And you get a lot of farmers. You get a lot of farmers. Lot of farming activity. There's enough industries too. You've got a very big boiler plant over here, and pretty sure you've got a lot of other things going on. But yeah, this is it. Mostly farms. It could be a little boring, but I thought I would salt and pepper this episode with some historic tidbits. Most of this history would be tainted with some sort of romanticism and myth, so excuse me if they're not 100% accurate. And of course, we can have a discussion about it, so you can write down anything that you feel in the comments so we can continue the conversation. Right, so we finished what the flaps are. The next thing that we have is trim, and trim is basically something that I use to pitch my airline up or down. So right now I'm holding my joystick so that we are climbing. I can quite simply move my pitch down and let go of my joystick. It's dipping a little bit, but the more you move your pitch down, the more your aircraft pitches up. So that's pretty cool. So if your hands ever get tired, you know what to do. And then we have the V speed, which I guess is the vertical speed, which is my up down, how much feet I lose. And on the right most, you have the altitude in feet. Flying is a very non-metric thing, I guess, because there's a lot of feet and there's a lot of knots and there's a lot of all of that shindig. So this is a little bit interesting to me. So if we were to go here, we can see that the Kaveri river basically splits up, and it splits up because of, let's throttle back because the airspeed is increasing greatly. And let's have a look at this. What you see below, it should be a point of interest, mind you. Over here is by far the oldest dam which was built in this part of the world. I believe there is another dam in the Middle East which is the oldest functioning dam in the world, period. This is possibly the second oldest one, but this is definitely much grander than the one in the Middle East. So what this does is, if you follow this tiny little stream over here, that's the river Kaveri. So that river used to flood a lot. It used to flood, and it was basically like the floodplains were irrigated when that happened, but there was a lot of property damage. So the great Chola kings who conquered these lands and occupied them for a very good part of history decided to build a diversion dam, which basically separates the river into one over here, which is away from all the places that were populated during their time. They call this Kollidam. Kollidam basically means catchment. And so right now, if you look at the maps, the bigger part of the river goes down here, and there's a small trickle of a stream over here. But you have all the important ancient capitals, and you have all the important cities with massive demographics still on the small stream. Because, hey, history. If there's one thing that history shown us, it's that people would much rather stay, fight it out, or just stay and die rather than move. History is a testament to how lazy we as a species are. Mm. 15 nautical miles. So let's quickly jump into why I find this game to be extremely awesome. Apart from the fact that this is the first flight simulator that I am playing and how well polished the mechanics of the game is, this is an intelligent game. Right now all we can see is the plane flying straight ahead. But what we don't understand is that there are so many different variables acting on this flight. There's air currents, there's jet streams, there's other air-based things, there's clouds. So yeah, pretty much there's a lot. If you go over a mountain, for example, you'll suddenly have a gust of air which tries to throw you off track. So there's a lot of such small things which make the simulation extremely awesome. Not to mention, if you jump in here, you'll be able to see that there is a bunch of extremely well crafted buttons. Most of these buttons are like you can interact with them, which means that it is indeed a very good simulation. Added to that, you have the way this map is generated. Granted, I installed the game, it misled me into thinking that it was a 500 MB install. But later on Tuesday, I believe this game dropped. When I came back and tried to play the game started installing updates. And because I have been banished into a certain storeroom which currently acts as my gaming room, I do not have access to high-speed internet. I have to depend on my wireless, which essentially means that the updates have been trickling in, and the game has taken forever to get installed onto my system. Now, as soon as the game installed, obviously I've never played a flight sim before in my life. I've never used a joystick. I've never used a throttle quadrant. So I had to learn the ropes. So I did a couple of the training missions. I did 7 of them. I got lost during the last training mission. So, and here we are, me trying to fly from Trichy to Tanjore. So what the game basically does, although there is 100 GB of data which is sitting on my computer for this game, is the game takes pictures of Bing Maps. Yes, Bing Maps. The other map, I don't even think you call it the other mapping solution, because you've got Google, you've got Apple, and you've got loads of other solutions. So it's not like it's an alternative for Google Maps, but there's definitely been a lot of investment and a lot of work that's gone into making Bing as good as it is. And it is pretty good. It's just that convenience wise, we immediately go to Google. We just don't go to Bing when you think about it. So Google's just here to stay, I guess. But yeah, so Bing Maps has a very good understanding of what's there in the world. So pretty much this game has what I could only call an AI, which basically reads the map and then just decides that this is how buildings have to look for it to be authentic. It's based on a lot of things. It learns from the textures. There's a lot of coding which goes on behind it. But pretty much all of this that you see around is rendered. There's not been a human hand to touch this part of the world. And that's pretty much how most of the world is rendered. You have some obscure little airports, which frankly, some of these places I didn't even know had airports. Like, I didn't know Tambram had an airport at all. It's probably a military airport because there's a cantonment there. But sure, I have no idea about half of these airports that exist. There are like 8 or 9 airports in Dubai. I lived in Dubai for 6 years. There's no way I would have thought there were 8 or 9 airports in Dubai. Right, so what you see below us here is actually quite, it's not interesting, but it's just, there's a canal system which goes here, and then you've got tracks here, that's the train tracks, and over here, if I'm not mistaken, is the main road. So you can see tiny little settlements all over the place, and it's actually interesting, like you have a settlement here on the road, and then this connects to a lot of these settlements over here. So India is extremely rural, but this is the kind of rurality that you get. It's not rural like the Americas, for example, or maybe Europe. I'm not sure. It's not like you have a village and then the next village is like extremely far away from. No, you can basically walk from village to village. They're really closely placed. At least in this part of the world. I mean, if you go to some places like Rajasthan, yeah, sure. Maybe they're a little more further apart. But we people have been here for eons. So yeah, there's like a lot of clustering of all these places. Speaking of, rice was the staple crop over here, but now they are shifting to all sorts of other things. Sugarcane, nuts, might be mistaken, but I mean, I haven't visited all the villages, obviously. I was here to study. I was too busy not studying and bunking college to actually visit all of these places and see what they had. So yes, let's throttle up a little bit and gain some altitude to see if we can find something interesting. It's pretty flat terrain actually, if you think about it. It's very flat. This is not an area which has a lot of hills. That's more to the west of my state, to the west of Tamil Nadu. There are a few hills on this side as well, but it's not in this direction. So this is basically the end of the river's life, pretty much, if you think about it. This is just before the river reaches the sea. So it's pretty flat ground, and flat civilizations normally love flat ground when they're settling on them, basically because flat ground is awesome for you with respect to building buildings and such. But one particular problem you have is that flat ground also helps the river change course, sometimes pretty often. So you can't keep moving, especially these eastern civilizations. Some of their most integral buildings were built to withstand floods. It wasn't built to get washed away so you can build another one, because nobody wants that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that they didn't move away, but instead they thought, how can I change the course of the river? So this road that we can see over here right in front of us is actually one of the expressways that connects Trichy to Tanjore. This is the expressway which connects Trichy to Tanjore, and here to the left what you can see is my university, the one that trained me to become a computer engineer, which has essentially given me, actually it's given me a lot. So we can have a view from up top just to reminisce a little bit. Sorry for the flickering. I'm trying to hold it so that we can have a better view. Right, that worked very horribly. So let's hope that we're not stressing. Yeah, that's an alarm. There she is. So right. Okay, that was a very brief view, but I need to get control of this because we are 1400 feet from the ground and we are making a mockery of this flight. So better get things steady and not crash on our first flight. Right. So I don't think a lot of people who are watching this will be familiar with my college, but what is very important for me is that I know this college well. I studied here for 4 years, and some of these renderings are spot on. They're brilliant, they're perfect. But the traffic there is crazy. There's no cars allowed inside. That's so funny. But some of these buildings are not spot on. They are not spot on because the AI doesn't understand certain types of buildings on how they're formed. So temples of South India essentially have a pyramid, conical pyramidal structure, step pyramid structure if you will, which is called a gopuram, which is basically like the inner sanctum of the temple. When you take images from satellites, you can't identify the inner sanctum. So yeah, the system basically reads it as a cube, and it says, oh yeah, there's a cube here, or there's a cuboid here. So I mean, it doesn't take away from the experience. Let me be very clear, I am thrilled at how they've rendered this. This is probably only 20% accurate because of the funny renderings of the buildings. Some of these buildings look downright European or American. So yeah, I'm not very the authenticity of it is definitely lacking, but it is surely an experience. It is something which is interesting, and it makes for really good gameplay. That's for sure. So yes, we are on top of Tanjore. Tanjore was at one point of time the most powerful city in this part of the world. It was home to the Cholas, who basically, they were awesome. They were kick-ass. Militarily, they were awesome. Culturally, they took us to a different place. They were really good kings. And they made this their capital. And they have covered this place with so many temples. It's a teeny tiny little town right now. But yeah, it's an awesome town. That's the runway. We can see it. It's 2.6866 whatever nautical miles away from us. So we are going to try and land here. I don't think my approach is correct, but I am still going to try and land here, because it's a game. If you can't do a wrong landing here, where else can you do it? I am pretty sure you can hear the whining. That's my dog. It's awfully late at night and she is trying to get my attention because she doesn't understand who I'm talking to. Let's go down a little bit, slow ourselves down with the flaps, get our speed down a little bit. and try and see if we can aim for the runway. I don't think I am doing the glide slope properly for this, but then again, the point is not that. Incorrect header. 7. Right. I don't know what that was. Maybe my instruments were a little bit wrong. I was telling me how I should make it correct. Our speed is, we are basically at idle right now, so there's nothing we can do to reduce our speed except maybe get the flaps down a little bit more. I think we will do that. We got our landing gear out, so things are looking good. I must say, things are looking extremely good. Looks like there's asphalt here and then goes into tarmac, but I don't think we need that much of runway space. Let's pull up a little bit just so the back tires hit first. Oi, don't take off. Right. Okay, there we are. So there we are. We have landed ourselves in Tanjore Airport and we are heading out of the taxiway. This was a very short trip. This was just so we could have a look at some of these places where I've grown up. It's a nostalgia flight, and seeing how well this fly through went, I am thinking I will do a couple of other fly throughs where we go around the world to different places where I've been, where I can share interesting things, or we will go out and explore places that I have not gone to. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Oh, sorry. What do I normally say? Thank you for watching. Take care now. Bye bye then. Yeah, there it is.